Poland, a country that lies in Central Europe, has had a difficult time with its independence, and with the help of two great leaders, Lech Walesa and Pope John Paul II, it has gotten its freedom it has today. The first written history of Poland was in the 900s, and from the 900s to the 1700s, Poland was its own free country. In the 1700s, the Prussian, Russian, and Austrian Empire divided up Poland amongst themselves. Then, in 1914 through 1918, Poland was taken over by Russia, Germany, and Austria during World War II. And in 1918, Poland got its independence back, but was only short-lived because in 1939, Poland was once again taken over by Germany and the Soviets during World War II. And at the end of World War II, in 1944, Poland was given to the Soviets and would be a Soviet satellite for 45 years. In the last 20 years that the Soviets controlled Poland, Lech Walesa and John Paul II would help Poland get rid of its Soviet control. Lech Walesa was born in 1943 in Papau, Poland. After leaving school, Walesa became a car mechanic, and in 1967 he moved to Gdańsk, where he became an electrician in the Lenin shipyard, and later would become an active member of the trade union movement. In 1970, he became the leader of the shipyard strike committee, and in 1976, he lost his job at the shipyard for his trade union activities and had to work a temporary job for a few years. Walesa continued to organize non-communism trade unions. In 1980, Walesa and several of his friends founded Solidarity. Solidarity was a group of non-communist trade workers. It grew quickly and had around 10 million followers, with Lech Walesa as their undisputed leader. In August 1980, Walesa led the Gdańsk shipyard strike. This led to a domino effect all over the country, where other strikes started to happen. In January 1980, the government allowed the workers to have strikes and let them make and organize their own trade unions. While all this was happening, the church supported Walesa and the Solidarity. On December 13, 1981, Poland was put under martial law. The government declared martial law to defend socialism. They felt threatened by the members of the first independent trade union, the Solidarity. The workers had gone on strikes to protest poor living conditions and lack of independent representations. With the birth of Solidarity, hopes were high that the new trade union would help to pressure the government and to introduce economic reforms and ease restrictions. The government quickly felt that Solidarity was a threat to the system and set up several roadblocks that created a derail in the Solidarity movement. On several occasions, the Soviets tried to pressure the Polish government and the Polish Communist Party to make Solidarity illegal. For the Polish government, it soon became apparent that the union was too strong and far too popular to simply make it illegal. A drastic action was needed to outcast the Solidarity, so the martial law was imposed. It stated that martial law can be imposed for defense and for national security reasons. The martial law gave people many restrictions and had people arrested for going against it. One of the people that was arrested under martial law was Walesa. He was imprisoned in 1981 and let out in 1982, but he was watched carefully by the government. Martial law was also lifted in 1982, but many rights for the people were still repressed. And in 1983, Walesa was given the Nobel Peace Prize in Poland for his work in Solidarity. He would continue to work with Solidarity underground. Then, in 1989, Poland broke free from Soviets' clutches and would weaken the already falling Soviet. Walesa then became president in 1990 to 1995, till he lost to ex-communist Alexander Kaczynski. As Walesa was the organizer of the Solidarity Act and the fight against communism in Poland, Pope John Paul II gave hope to the people and encouraged them to keep going. As Karl Wojtyła in 1920 in Wadowice, Poland, Karl originally wanted to be an actor, so he enrolled in a university for drama in 1938. Unfortunately, Nazi occupation closed down the university in 1939, and Karl was taken to a quarry to work from 1940 to 1944, and then was sent to work in a chemical factory to earn his living and not to be sent off to Germany. In 1942, he became aware of his call to priesthood and began a course to become a priest in the Clandestine Seminary of Krakow. After World War II, he continued to study in the major of Seminary of Krakow and was ordained to priesthood by Archbishop Sophia in Krakow on November 1, 1946. A short time afterwards, Cardinal Sophia sent him to Rome to work under Gerhard Larkin. He finished and got his doctorate in theology in 1948 and returned to Poland and became a advisor to various parishes in Krakow and a chaplain to the university. He did this until 1951 when he again picked up his studies in philosophy and theology. In 1953, he became a professor at Lublin Catholic University. On July 4, 1958, he was appointed titular Bishop of Ombia and Auxiliary of Krakow by Pope Pius. On January 13, 1964, he was appointed Archbishop of Krakow by Pope Paul VI, who also made him Cardinal June 26, 1967. He took part of the Vatican Council from 1962 to 1965. On October 16, 1978, he was elected Pope and took the name of John Paul II. In the 1980s, Pope John Paul II became a huge icon for the people of Poland who was starting to fight against the communist hold on them. His election as Pope gave hope to the people in Poland. It shook the Poles out of the slump they had fallen into after the British and Americans gave Poland over to the Soviets. Him becoming a pope showed that the Poles, they belonged to a wider Europe and they could find their independence again. It was Pope John Paul who gave the members of the Solidarity movement that they could take on the Soviets, and that Europe, and more importantly, the rest of the world would not ignore them. "I'll never forget it," said one time Solidarity leader Michael Gill as he showed us around the vast grim steel works at Novohoda. From somewhere below us came the hot roar of the gigantic smelter. He took me by the hand and said, "Do not be afraid." He had such an aura about him, said Mr. Gill. It was Pope John Paul II who put new heart into Solidarity at the very moment in 1981 when it became clear the communist authorities, prodded hard by Moscow, would try to destroy Poland's demand for greater freedom. Rather than accommodate it, he showed the Solidarity members that this must not be a violent struggle. In 1983, Pope John Paul II and Welska, who was a band union leader at the time, met for the first time. At the time they met, Solidarity had been banned since December 1981 under martial law, which led to social tension in Poland. This would be the second time the Pope John Paul II would be returning to Poland since he became head of the Roman Catholic Church in 1978. Welska met the Pope in the Tarata Mountains in the south of the country towards the end of the Pope's 8-day stay in Poland. The Pope took Welska to the side and gave Welska some advice, saying he should rely on the advice of the Catholic Church, instead of organizing street demonstrations as part of the trade union's campaign to bring political reforms to Poland. The Pope, even as Archbishop, took a stand against the communist reign. He also told Welska to keep things peaceful and to resolve everything through dialogue and not violence. He also said that martial law could be lifted by the autumn. He said this because hours prior to meeting Welska, the Pope met the Prime Minister General Wojciech Jaruzelski. Welska, who looked highly up to the Pope, said he was moved and enthusiastic about the meeting afterwards, and that he was willing to take a backseat until the government ended martial law. The Pope also visited the industrial heartland in the south and talked to 2 million people and workers, telling them that they had every right to join free trade unions. He said, "This right is not given to us by the state. It is a right given by the Creator." The Pope blessed the widows of the workers killed when martial law was imposed. Before returning to the Vatican, the Pope made a televised address to the people of Poland. He said, "The nation must develop by its own means and resources." In 1989, Solidarity became a legal organization and Poland became its own country and became the Republic of Poland. In December 1990, Welska was elected President of the Republic of Poland, and although he was a great leader during the Solidarity movement, he was not a very good president and had many critics. People said his behavior was erratic and he had too many close links with the military and Secret Service. In November 1995, he lost the president election to Alexander Kaczynski. Kaczynski would work to get Poland into NATO. Although Poland had not been a very well-governed since the fall of communism, and despite its 20% unemployment, it is now on the road to long prosperity and become a better nation, is working to become better like the other countries. Poland, having its own form of cash, the zloty, has helped to keep finances in Poland from getting too bad. It was the only country in the European nation not to go into recession. Also, output goods are supposed to rise 4% or more in 2011, and an estimated 3.6% by this year. Also, foreign direct investments are expected to rise 28% this year. Poland's relationship with Russia is still shaky and is still being fixed. The U.S. with President Obama has hit the reset button with Russia, and now hopes to help Poland fix its relationship with Russia also. But President Komorowski says it's not that easy. We are not able to fully reset and delete 1,000 years of an easy history of Russia. But Komorowski said maybe with the help of Obama, they may be able to change that, and maybe he will be able to hit the reset button. Poland has only been an independent country for 20 years now and is working to become a better nation and is working to become like all the other countries. It just has to start over again. And as I've read in a quote once, the hardest part of ending is starting again.
Flying up